Well, it's an interesting topic, especially if you are like me, 45 and over. I think this is definitely on a mind. A lot of changes occur, whether they're physical, whether they're psychological, whether they're emotional. And every woman may experience menopause differently. As Dr. Amrinder says, menopause is just another phase of our life. But when I was calculating, this phase of our life possibly lasts about 30% of our life. So it's really important that we understand menopause because we can be wiser, we can be happier, and we can be healthier. Today, we are speaking to Dr. Amrinder Bajaj. She's a gold medalist. She's an MD in Obstetrics and Gynecology from AIIMS. She is presently with Fortis Memorial Research Institute in Gurugram. But more than that, she is an award-winning author. I don't know where she finds the time. She has written a memoir with the noted Indian author and columnist Khushwant Singh called Afternoon Girl, My Khushwant Memoirs, and that was published by HarperCollins. And she has two wellness books. She has a regular column, actually two of them, in the magazine Women Era, and she regularly writes for magazines and newspapers like Times of India, the Tribune, and Indian Express. She's also got two more books coming up. So again, like I said, how does she find the time? One is on female sexuality, and the other is about a dysfunctional family that disintegrates when the head of the household develops cancer. So welcome, Dr. Amrinder. I'm so happy to have you with us today.
Thanks for inviting me, Sukriti.
I especially loved your book. I guess I've gone through the stage. So maybe for me, it was very relatable. But I love especially this fact that you said, me, no pause. I think that's one of the stuff that stayed with me because we kind of are very fearful of this term menopause. When will it hit us? But you have brought a little bit of positivity around the subject. And this is not the end of the world. It's written like a novel, a storybook, a story of three women going through menopause. So I'm going to ask you the first question. Is menopause the midlife crisis for women?
Sukriti, different people react differently to the same situation. So there are some who do think it's a midlife crisis, and there are others who think it's a gateway to an exciting new world. Here's an imaginary conversation between these two type of personas. What's so exciting about menopause, asks the pessimist. The hair loss, the wrinkled skin, the weight gain, the insomnia, the mood swings, the hot flashes, or the mustache.
Or those ingrown hairs.
Yeah, here everywhere, the mustache. And to this, the optimist replies that it is a sense of liberation, of freedom that I will get after menopause that I'm looking forward to. Freedom from periods, pain, pads, from premenstrual PMS, from contraception, from childbearing, child rearing, and most importantly, freedom to do what I want, because time that was a scarce commodity earlier is now at my disposal. Usually for many of us, like a lot of us work also, but still we've got more time. We don't have to look after the children. The elders have probably gone. So we've got more time on our hands to do exactly what we want to do, which we had kept on the side till we were more busy with the other engagements.
So I agree with you. I was actually happy because not having periods to me was actually a boon. Those 5 days, that I did not look forward to. But we're really
another thing was that you don't even, there are issues that come with menopause, but most of them are treatable. You don't have to wallow like a buffalo in a mud pond in self-pity. I remember when I used to get rejections for my books and all, I used to keep whining and crying. And then Khushwant Singh told me that self-pity is the worst form of self-indulgence. So that I took to heart. So I fiercely wiped my tears and started all over again. And now here I am.
But tell us, what is the difference? Because we hear this term, perimenopause, menopause. So what is that?
See, perimenopause is a varying period of time. It could be up to 4 years also, a few months also, that occurs before menopause, actually occurs. Menopause is the cessation of menstruation for 12 continuous months.
Okay.
So before that, there could be irregular bleeding. It could be erratic. It could come late. A natural, normal menopause would ideally be that you have late periods after 1.5 months, 2 months, 3 months. They become scantier, the days become less, and then gradually they stop. Some people stop abruptly also, that's also fine. But those who have erratic bleeding, those have frequent, prolonged bleeding, heavy bleeding, blood loss, clots, and all that, that could be also part of menopause, but we cannot just take it under that one blanket. Chalo, iska period khatam ho raha hai, aisa nahi hai. That we have to be looked into, because it could be due to other things like fibroids, polyps, or thickening of the inner lining, the endometrial lining, which could be precancerous. So these things, and the important things during perimenopause you have to look into is, one is that intermenstrual bleeding between two periods, if you're having spotting or bleeding, that, or secondly, post-coital bleeding, that is bleeding after sex. These could be, not always, but could be due to cancer. So you're never to ignore these things.
But let's talk about this. So, we take, especially menopause as a very common thing. Should we actually be visiting a doctor when we're going through this phase, or when we have reached menopause? Because we just kind of say, okay, it's happened and that's it.
No, I think you should visit a doctor at least once in the beginning, even if you're feeling perfectly all right. You go for a general body checkup. The physician will, because this menopause is a very temperamental creature. Sometimes she becomes friends with you immediately. Sometimes she takes times to get adjusted, and sometimes she remains loggerheads with you. And then you have to be, and then she can end up gradually, slowly, surely, she takes up every system of her body, and she can end up running your life or ruining your life. So we don't have to let her get the better of you. So what we have to do is to go for a yearly health checkup. Even men should go, that's different. And you visit a cardiologist, a physician, eye specialist, a gynecologist especially, and you get certain tests, the general body check, like complete blood count, thyroid, sugars, lipid profile, because menopause also predisposes a person to heart problems, to cancers, and to bone loss and fractures. So these things have to be looked in, and specifically from the gynecologist's point of view, a pap smear should be taken, an ultrasound of the genital organs inside, that has to be taken. Breast lumps have to be looked for. They're always overlooked, and that's a very sad situation. And thirdly is mammography also have to do. Bone densitometry also, because thin old ladies, frail women, just have a minor fall in the toilet and they break their bones. So these things have to be done, and these come insidiously. So you do not know, you don't have to reach the stage of a fracture to know that. You have to build up your calcium, your bone mass by a lot of exercises and things, and so that you don't reach that stage. So that's why it's important to go to the doctor.
So your recommendation is every year we should actually, when we're reaching menopause or perimenopause, we should visit a gynecologist and get these tests done.
Yeah, and in between, when you're developing symptoms which you think you can ignore, let the doctor decide whether it can be ignored, or maybe it could be a very early cancer that could be 100% cured.
But I love what you said about Dr. Google, that you will charge double. But the problem is that is the first doctor that we go to, because the first time we say, okay, let me check out these symptoms. And if these symptoms are kind of occurring to me, and if they're not manageable, let me go to a doctor, especially like vaginal dryness. I loved it because you also mentioned that drinking water, somebody said that will cure it.
Someone in Penguin told me that she was doing it.
So because that is a very, very common problem, but nobody wants to talk about, I think, the two big things. One is, of course, the vaginal dryness and the lack of libido. So let's talk about those two big things, because these are the ones that women do not want to talk about. And I think the third one is that you've also talked about it, is the fact that you will have the urine or the problem with controlling your bladder.
Yeah. So sex-wise, there are 4 or 5 things that can occur when you attain menopause. One is that the couple is satisfied with not having sex because due to religious reasons, or maybe they think it's just for procreation, not recreation. So if they're fine with it, it is fine for all of us, for everyone else also. But they should not be averse to cuddling and cozying up so that the bond is maintained. Then secondly, the second situation could be both have normal sex desire, no issues, continue as before. Thirdly is the woman has a normal sex desire, but this vaginal dryness is causing such immense pain. It's like the grating of live skin that she just cannot have sex. And then the husband feels that she's lost interest in him. But then even if Brad Pitt had made a pass at her, she wouldn't have agreed to let him come close because of her personal problem. So at that time, this is treatable. This is what happens with the loss of estrogen. The estrogen is responsible for the vagina to be thick, moist, succulent. But that when the estrogen is depleted, it becomes thin, dry, and not elastic. So then there are cuts, there's pain and all that. So first, if it's mild, they can use lubricants. So if lubricants are fine, they can continue like that. But if that doesn't help, then the estrogen vaginal creams that help. Secondly,
are these over the counter, or you have to get a prescription?
No, you must get a prescription. The lubricants you can get over the counter, but not these estrogen creams. Any hormones that you have to take for menopause have to be under strict medical supervision. And then thirdly, that usually people feel better after that. Thirdly is that loss of libido. Yes. I was talking about the bladder also. Frequent desire to go to
that's a big one.
Secondly, you can't hold your urine also. Bathroom once there a few drops come out. And thirdly, you're scared to laugh and sneeze and all the sometimes people get stress incontinence also. So these could be due to injuries during childbirth, but now because the tissues are weakened and so they give way. So that's the stress incontinence, which is operable. The urge incontinence is the desire to pass urine so urgently that you can't even go to the bathroom. So these are treatable by medicines. And estrogen creams help even for this because the posterior wall of the bladder and the anterior wall of the vagina are in close proximation. And the posterior wall of the bladder is also dependent on estrogen. So if you give estrogen creams, these symptoms might help in these women.
Okay. So it can help for beyond just the sexual drive.
So the third thing is the loss of libido. The loss of libido could be due to insomnia, due to mood swings, due to getting up for the toilet every time in the middle of the night, due to other diseases that you already have, which are listing like diabetes also may decrease libido or some other things. So if these are treated, you do get your libido back. And if you don't want to, and if your husband is fine with it, is all right. And then the fifth situation could be a woman has a normal sex desire, but she has no partner. So she can please herself without feeling guilty. And the last thing is an increased libido. In our body, there are a small amount of male hormone called testosterone, which is responsible for the sex desire. So once the estrogen subsides, in some women, that gets the upper, and that is also responsible for the masculine distribution of hair, the frontal hair loss, and so those women also get increased desire also for sex. Don't look at any old woman with hair and think, wait,
I know. Now I'm going to be like, okay.
Not necessarily, but the thing is, then it's fine if the husband can cope up with her desire, it's fine with them. So these are the things that can happen.
But let's talk about hormone replacement therapy, because it sounds very, very scary to us. When is that recommended, or is that just kind of the last resort?
First of all, should you be scared of HRT? Nowadays, it is called MHT. When I wrote the book, it was still HRT, hormone replacement. And now it's called menopausal hormone therapy. So it's like a knife. If used judicially, it works very well. If not, you can cut your hand.
Okay.
So first, it was thought as the panacea of all ills and elixir of youth. And doctors, including me, took a lot of it. And then we realized that it is not what it is. It does not help much with brain and heart health. It can, though occasionally, very rarely, cause breast and uterine cancer. So the pendulum swung from one end to the other. Yes. So now we have struck a mean. There are 2-3 things that we just still prescribe under strict medical supervision and for the shortest duration possible. Shortest, having said it, could be even 5 years.
Okay.
But first, it was lifelong sort of thing. No? So these are, first is hot flashes and cold sweats that are interfering with your day-to-day life, that are not controlled by the normal things, that drinking a sip of water, sitting in a cool room, wearing layered clothes, and these sort of things. Those, and thirdly is this vaginal dryness and urinary problems. For the first 2, you have to take tablets which affect the rest of the body. So there are lots of tests that you have to do and go for regular health checkups and give a history of family history of cancers and problems. So then you just use it judiciously. But the vaginal creams do not enter the system. So they can be used quite conveniently. Initially, it's every day for 2 to 3 weeks. Then it's just twice a week for 3 months or so. Then stop, and if the symptoms recur, then use it again.
Now, what about all these foods? They tell you about these diet foods like tofu, this, that, and the other that can help. Do they actually make a difference?
See, soya is said to contain phytoestrogens. Phytoestrogens are plant-based estrogens. So they attach themselves to the estrogen receptors in our body, and they do help. But you can't keep eating soya all the time, all much. I think people don't like it also sometimes. Soya, we could do in the form of milk or what we get in the market or even tofu. You can take it, that's good. But it's important to have balance, as in any stage of life, a balanced, nutritious diet, green leafy vegetables, sprouts, and omega-3 is in fish oils also. Or if you are vegetarian, you can take an omega-3 tablet also. And then B complex is important. That also helps in hot flushes, improves memory also in some people. So there are certain vitamins also they can take. Calcium gets depleted from the bone, and the bone is like a hollow structure that can be knocked down so easily. So these diets are very important, that what you eat and what. Don't avoid trans fat, avoid those saturated fats, fast foods, these big market things you don't try to avoid.
But let's talk about that, because we do get concerned because we want to take all these vitamins, and are taking the vitamins fine, or can you overdo it? Because you talk about this, especially vitamin D.
See, vitamin D, it is such an irony or paradoxical thing in a country flooded with sunshine. We sit in AC rooms, we go in AC cars.
Or we're told not to even put on the sunblock, right?
Slather ourselves with sunblock and all that. And the skin specialist says you must avoid the sun. The bone specialist says you must sit in the sun. But then you don't have to sit in the sun 24/7. You just sit for 20, 30 minutes only. And you could sit in the morning and the evening and without this cream and all that. And our obsession with fairness and whatever it is. So vitamin D, if you could get directly, it would have been good. But most of us are deficient in vitamin D. So vitamin D helps in the absorption of calcium. So no point taking vitamin D without calcium.
Okay. So both have to go hand in hand.
Yeah. So there are a lot of calcium tablets that have a small amount of vitamin D. That is like a maintenance dose. But if someone is really deficient in vitamin D, they take it once a week for about, depending on the amount of deficiency. And this is one one vitamin that accumulates in the body. So you just, once the doctor ne ke hafte mein ek baar lo, to you just don't go again and keep on taking. It can cause hypervitaminosis. The other hormones, if you take a lot of vitamin B12 or something, that will come out in the urine. The other thing, this will stay in the body. So that
now let's talk about this, because I'm dying to know this novel, especially the autobiographical one, For the Love of a Man. Please tell us a little bit about that.
I don't know how, you know what, these striptease just bare their bodies, but like writers are the worst exhibitionists of all sort. I've bared my soul, and it's about a woman who tries to live life on her own terms, and when things go horribly wrong, she pays the price. She's a doctor who is saving lives but has no control over her own life. She must marry someone whom her parents select, not someone whom she likes because he's from another caste. That time. That's why I made sure that my son, if he's married a Brahmin girl, I'm very happy with that. So you do that, and then how you go through life, and then I don't know, I shouldn't be read it.
Because you've got us.
It's For the Love of a Man is never again. For me, from now on, it's just my dog and me and a book. Never again will I crave the love of a man. From now on, it's just my dog and me and a book beneath a shady tree.
Now, let's talk about your next book also, because you're writing about the elephant in the room. This is something that we don't talk about in India at all. Female sexuality. We want to kind of see, the woman as an asexual creature or a non-sexual creature. So let's talk about that, because, how and when will we accept women as sexual creatures?
They think women who have sex desires are bad women. And those
Or we're
who,
conditioned to thinking this.
yeah. And like in our generation, they would say, "Nee, this, that, yeah, someone is this," and suddenly you get into arranged marriage and you have to do everything with a complete stranger. So that dichotomy is not, I mean, some people are waiting for it, that Suhagrat and all that, but most of those little people who are sensitive wouldn't like that to be, it's like a sort of a violation only.
Yes.
So that's one sort of a thing. But then sexuality, and then we ignore sexuality, it's there right from birth. From childhood, there's like anal desire. Then the young girls, kids. My own granddaughter would start fiddling with the clitoris right in public. So
and we're like, no, don't. We get so embarrassed.
Yeah, so embarrassed. Then I don't know how she used to sit on that, what's that called, on the table, which is in that chair that's attached. She would start doing like so there only. So she was so young, but then you have to teach them how to do that. And then there's adolescent sexuality. The tragedy of sexuality is that your mental maturity comes so much later than your physical maturity. Secondly is that, because I'm not recommending child marriages, but that time it was contained. The sexuality was contained during a teenager with your husband. You could experiment or do whatever you want. And now, because of career, because of education, the age of marriage is being delayed. So then they indulge in sexual activities which may or may not be harmful. That is for teenagers, then married couples, then sex during pregnancy, during menopause, during every stage of life. That is one thing. Then I wrote about our ancient books, our Kama Sutra, how advanced they were, I can't tell you. And yes. Then even the perfumed garden is with the Arabic book. I wrote about that. I went through that also. I read about tantric sex also. And I wrote about the chapters on that. Arabic, I was so pleased to know that they like chubby women. I should have born at that time.
No, we're waiting for that one. And once this book comes out, we're definitely going to have another chat with you on female sexuality. Yeah. Any last tips you'd like to leave the readers with on menopause?
See, as we are going to spend a third of our lives in the postmenopausal period, longevity does not translate into decrease in the quality of life. They must remember that most symptoms that come with menopause, they don't have to get embarrassed about it. They are treatable. And other things like cancers or heart problems, if you're getting regular checkup, they'll be like, if your lipid profile is very high, and if you go and get to the doctor beforehand and it's just controlled, your heart problem will be delayed or may not occur. If you go for regular pap sex and you get diagnosed pre-cancerous conditions, you won't get cancer. If you look after your bones, so then you take the proper diet, exercise and all that, you won't get that. So that is preventive. Once you get also, the earlier you go to the doctor, the better it is. So this is how you can improve the quality of life. But diet, like I already discussed the diet, what she should eat and the vitamin supplements that she could take. But these things that are available in the market, like black cohosh or ginseng sometimes can lead to postmenopausal bleeding. See, there are 2-3 things that are absolutely not acceptable. Bleeding after menopause is not to be ignored. Okay. You must go to the doctor. It could be something simple as atrophy also, but it could be cancer. Okay. So you have to go there, that post-coital, that bleeding after sex or bleeding in between periods. Those 3 things you must visit a doctor. That is not acceptable.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Secondly is exercise. 30 minutes aerobic, walking, cycling, swimming. I swim even at this age, and swimming, and for 30 minutes for 5 days a week. 2 days, they must have weight-bearing exercise, because we tend to lose our muscle mass and get fat, and then the bone health also. So twice a week, there should be some sort of a weight training exercise. Kegel exercise. The Kegels is tightening and relaxing the perineal muscle so that you can hold your urine for longer time. And that will have, these are the type of exercises. Then proper sleep. If you've got sleep disturbances due to these other things like hot flashes or frequent urination or mood swings and all that, get those treated so that you get proper sleep. Or you can do deep breathing, relaxation, yoga, meditation. Indulge in some creative activities so that you get a sense of achievement. There's so much you can do. Then social activity. You must have a social support system. It could be even a kitty party. It could be a religious. You go for bhajans also. That is up to you. You can make gossip also with your friends. It's a form of venting only. Na? So those things you can have this thing. Then remain sexually active because it improves the sense of well-being and increases the bondage. Then go for yearly checkups. Do not ignore any symptoms. So there's no reason why you can't live your life to the fullest, even now.
No, I think very well said. I think do not rely on Dr. Google. Do get that yearly checkup done and make sure that you are, getting all of the right things at the right time. But thank you, because like I said, we're going to live 1/3 of our life in this phase. So it's very important that we live it the best that we can.
Thank you for inviting me. Huh?
Thank you.